From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault, grab a great book from We Read the Night, join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk has you all up to date on the SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight we head into what could be one of the biggest mysteries and conspiracies in the United States Navy. What happened to the USS Eldridge? With a background in scientific and medical application development, Andrew Hochheimer founded the Software Artists Limited Corporation and has been the president for over 30 years. With a constant passion in science on theories of time travel and teleportation, the story of the Philadelphia experiment caught his interest in the early 80s. Mr. Hochheimer has spent over 35 years digging through books, making phone calls, meeting and interviewing various people. He has walked the decks of the Eldridge's sister ship, held original historical documents, pored over government microfilms and archives, all in effort to try and compile the most complete and thorough work on the Philadelphia experiment of 1943. His website, which I highly suggest you check out, it's a good one, is de173.com. That's de173.com. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I'm going to bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Andrew Hochheimer, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. And it's good to chat with you again because I actually got to meet you at the Alien Cosmic Expo this past September in Toronto, Ontario. And what a pleasure that was.
Yeah, that was a good time. It was my first time going to one of those conferences, and it was really nice because it was smaller than, you go to some of the U.S. ones that are really large. So you can spend more quality time with people. I spent probably about 30 minutes with Travis Walton before and during the con, and it was quite nice because you just wouldn't get that time at like Contact in the Desert or something with the head guests.
Well, you know what? You and I had about a 20-minute conversation, which I'm very, very thankful for. And we got a picture together, and I was shocked to actually see that picture of you and I on your website. Thank you for doing that. I really do.
It actually turned out well. I was surprised, so that was good.
Yeah. My hair was all over the place, man. It was terrible.
So that's perfect.
I want to start off by introducing you to our audience here, Andrew. What got you so interested in the Philadelphia experiment?
Well, it started a long time ago. I watched a lot of science fiction movies, so I was quite young at the time, and this is back in the 1980s, and I had watched the movie The Philadelphia Experiment, and it was okay. It was in my local library, and right when you walk in the door, they have a rack of like books where they put some stuff occasionally, and they rotate it out and whatnot. But I noticed that there was a book there by William Moore and Charles Berlitz called The Philadelphia Experiment. And knowing that books are usually far better than the movies because a book doesn't have a budget, I thought I'd pick it up. And when I started to read it, it became quite evident that Moore and Berlitz didn't think it was a science fiction movie. And that started a long journey down a path of a lot of twisted tales and a lot of, just like you find in ufology, from everything from crippled to crazy on people. Lots of stories, lots of facts that don't make sense. Lots of... it's just interesting when you start piling all the dates together and all the different quote witnesses and things to really come down to see what really matches up. It's kind of like anything. You can't just read one book or one source and get the full picture, because usually books will only convey the story that supports their side of the argument. So you really got to look at a lot of stuff on the subject to get an appreciation of what might be going on.
So as you developed an interest in this story, it became a very big passion of yours about 35 years ago. What was it about the Philadelphia experiment that you needed to go down this road really heavily?
Well, it's just highly interesting. I've always been interested in things like teleportation, and all the science behind stuff like that, because you got to figure at some point in the future, we're going to need some kind of technology to move from place to place fairly instantly, because the distances are so vast. A lot of people think the speed of light is fast. The speed of light is actually horribly slow for anything outside of our local neighborhood. If you want to travel from our star system to another one, the speed of light is horribly slow. So we need to look at other technologies and other ways to move things that don't rely on actually moving things. So that's what I really found really interesting is that kind of technology. Movies like Stargate and other things like that, where you see like they go through a portal, for example, and they end up somewhere else. That's sort of the technology where I think we have to get to at some point in time to make all these distances irrelevant.
Were you always into the strange, weird, conspiratorial, or was it this story in general?
This story in general. I mean, like, I didn't really fall through the rabbit hole of all the different conspiracy theories out there. It was more or less just coming up, growing up with a lot of ufology sort of stuff. But, more like the ufology cases and things, like, than, say, some conspiracy angled stuff.
So with that, I mean, when you go down a rabbit hole, whether it's this, whether it's UFOs or anything along those lines, you really, really get captivated by it. So when you started looking into the Philadelphia experiment, was this something that you thought would just be an interested learning? Did you realize that 35 years later, it would still be one of your biggest passions?
I just thought it was really interesting. I mean, like, to this day, I'm still amazed with the number of people that simply hit the website daily. We're 75 plus years later, and it's still one of the top things that people look up. There's like, say, 10 or so different things people generally look up in this kind of field, and the Philadelphia experiment is still around after all these years and after so much information's been out there. It's just interesting. So,
Andrew, when you were going along this lines, what was your experience with warships, the Navy, and your knowledge of everything military when it came to the oceans?
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff in this, it's fairly interesting in the sense that a lot of the documentation just takes time. It just takes perseverance to get. You look at a lot of books, and a lot of the books are rehashing facts from other books. There's not a lot of people doing real research. When one person says something's not available, other people just tend to copy that fact that it's not available. Like, for example, the deck logs of the Eldridge, for example, Berlitz and Moore make a big point that they're simply missing for the time period in 1943. In actuality, that's not really the case. I've got the handwritten notes from every single day that ship was around on microfilm from the Navy, and that just took some time to get a hold of.
In the next half hour, we're going to get more into what happened with the Eldridge and the whole conspiracy behind that. Do you believe that this is a conspiracy theory, or that this is just a hidden black project, or maybe both?
Maybe a little of both, and maybe it's a little bit of a legend as well. I mean, there's some interesting things and in the Philadelphia experiment, and whether it happened or not, there's no doubt that it changed the lives of several people involved, which is another interesting part to the whole story. It's one of these things that whether it happened or not, it still affected so many people in so many ways, right down to pop culture today.
What's with that effect, though?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
What's with that effect? How is it affecting people today?
I mean, affected people that researched it, like, for example, Morris K. Jessup. Ultimately, that ended in the loss of his life. Other people involved in the research or, just in the story in general. All I'm trying to say is that it affected real people's lives, where some stories are more or less just stories. So I'm not really explaining it well, I suppose.
No, but I think I know where you're going with that, because I mean, in the end, I mean, we don't know if this happened, and we don't really know if this is truthful. I mean, there's a whole gamut of people out there who believe that this story has been debunked. You know, the characters that came out, I don't even know if they're name worthy to bring on the air, who said that they were a part of it, that you know, they failed miserably in that, you know. And
yeah, we've had a lot of people. We've had a lot of people come out of the woodwork. Sorry, we've had a lot of people come out of the woodwork that said they were there. If I had to add up all the people that said they were there, they wouldn't fit on the ship, and that's a problem right there. You know, like Alfred Bielek, Duncan Cameron, Preston Nichols, they just fabricated a story 100%, without a doubt. It's really interesting with those guys, because they started with telling a fairly well-researched story. You know, it's technobabble sprinkled in and stuff, but it almost seems like all the people that aren't really telling the truth don't know when to stop. Alfred Bielek tells a fairly good story up until he talks about how he was age regressed by the government and put into a different body and all this kind of absolute silliness. But it's just interesting that they don't know when to stop sometimes. And you find that even with ufology, you find the guys that go on the circuit tours and then their story keeps expanding every time they go in front of an audience. Anytime somebody points out something that could not, like, isn't really factual in their story, you go to the next, you know, lecture with them and they've already modified their story to correct that issue. We had the same thing with Preston Nichols. Preston Nichols would talk about certain things in technology that weren't quite accurate, and it got to the point where I realized that we're just kind of like fixing his story for him, and really stopped communicating to him. It was pretty funny. But
when you look at the hoaxers around this story, Andrew, and as you said, there's been a number, Al Bielek probably being the biggest name and Preston Nichols being the second. Why have people tried to jump on board with this? Was it just a money-making scam, or was it that they were trying to, you know, emphasize the story a little bit more to try and give it more credence that this was a truthful event?
I'd almost say it's just more or less they got caught up in it to some degree. The whole Alfred Bielek story is actually a lot of the stuff in this. It turns out to be sad the more you look into it, and you know, he basically how can I really say this? He basically spent like a year researching the story, and he went from being what you'd consider a fairly normal electronics guy to really falling off the deep end. One of his close friends, I interviewed him, and it was just like I said, a sad story. He was like, this was a really intelligent guy, and he just couldn't believe how his friend went from like point A to point B in a relatively quick span of time. And it was all fabricated, and it was just, like I say, it was like a sad story in the end. All those people have now passed away. Preston Nichols just passed away recently. And Duncan Cameron actually just passed away as well from cancer. But yeah, it's just amazing that people believe these people.
For people who don't know, could you tell us the story behind Al Bielek, Preston Nichols?
Yeah, so what happened is it's almost comical in a way, but basically Preston Nichols had invited Al Bielek over to his house. They were watching the movie The Philadelphia Experiment, and then Preston Nichols had said that he had all these memories that he was actually part of it. Like, all these memories came back to him. Again, this is all fabricated. It makes me crazy to even talk about it, but so then they went on from there. You know, doing lectures. They went to a MUFON conference. Started talking more and more about the Philadelphia Experiment and, you know, what all happened and who was all involved. And they actually told a fairly interesting story, and that's why so many people believed them, because they were so fact-rich. Not that they were accurate, but they were pretty fact-rich to people that don't know everything. You know, they're talking a lot about how, like, Tesla was involved and things like this, and a lot of things that make sense, but when you really look at it, it just doesn't. You know, Tesla died in 1943, he was in no condition near the end of his life to be running any kind of government project. Like, quite frankly, he was feeding pigeons. So just strange.
You did a great book out that you have going right now, which is the Philadelphia Experiment, which can be found on your website, which is de173.com. And the book, The Philadelphia Experiment, classified from A to Z, or Z for us in Canada here. I gotta ask you that. Are you going with the American version of the Z or Z, or are you going with the Canadian version?
Z. A to Z. Yeah. The book's not quite out yet. I really put off all radio and podcast interviews and stuff like that till the book was out, and I figured I'd do this one early simply because we met and we talked about this, back in November there. But I just ran into some personal stuff where it just took longer than I expected. So the book should be out in the next few months from Flying Disc Press, the same publisher that Calvin Parker uses. And it was a pretty interesting story because my book started out as a book and then went to a website, and now it's coming back to a book.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I thought just putting everything on a website and then seeing if that would be financially viable versus going the book route. Now I'm going back to a book because there's just really, the community doesn't really support people that make content as much as they should. That goes for all aspects of ufology and stuff. We have so many great people creating great content with little or no support. I mean, I'm sure you're even finding that too.
Oh yes, we have talked about that ad nauseum on this show. I mean, I think the best way to get any sort of press in this field, it definitely isn't by hard work. It's about doing things like lying about your credentials. It's about putting out false information that gullible people will jump on. So, I mean, there's a lot of that. I mean, I hate to say this, but I mean, you're really in the bottom part of the industry because you're trying to tell some truthful facts about what is going on, what happened with the Philadelphia Experiment, and how unbelievable that story is in the first place. And in the meantime, we have people running around with blue chickens and, getting the avian flu virus and all this kind of stuff or whatever it may be. So, yes, I understand your plight fully and completely. Yeah.
People want a good story. They don't want the truth. I mean, that's just how things are. And that's one thing about the Philadelphia Experiment is the more you look into it and the more areas you track down and lead you track down, the story almost gets depressing sometimes where you're like, you just don't even want to work on it, and then you come back to it, a few months later. It's kind of like everything. I mean, you look at the Bermuda Triangle, and they say 1,000 planes went down, and it's just so freaking mysterious. And the reality of the situation is 600 planes called in with low fuel issues, 200 planes called in with inexperienced pilots and weather conditions. When it comes down to it, there's only a handful of really unexplained events. Not the 1,000 the book tries to tell you. But people don't want to know about that.
Why do you think there is such an aversion to learning the truth about this field?
It's not interesting, probably. I mean, there are some really good cases. There's some really good mysterious cases. But we have a lot of nonsense, too, in the field. And people gravitate towards that because it's really interesting.
I can understand that, I could see that where that would be the case. So, as someone who is trying to bring legitimacy to a case like this, how frustrating is it for you that people would sooner listen to somebody lie about the story like Al Bielek, even though God rest his soul, hope he's doing good on the other side, comparatively to what you would consider true research into trying to figure out what actually happened with the Eldridge?
It just comes down to like entertainment versus fact. I mean, people want to be entertained. I'll even tell you myself, I thought Al Bielek was great at first. His story was fairly good until you really looked at it. And all these people, that's what they do. They tell a good story, and they don't want you to look at it very closely. Some of the big things with the Philadelphia experiment that really fall apart sometimes is that people said a lot of things, and like ufology is the same way, though. People will say a lot of things about cases that happened in the past, knowing that people had no way to check up on that stuff. You had no way to access the information to say whether or not that event happened the way the witness or the way the person said it did or not. And like, for example, going back to Al Bielek for a minute, he said he was on a certain naval vessel from this date to this date, with the realization that, you really can't go look that up that easy. In fact, I have access to all naval records for all ships, all crew lists, and I couldn't find him anywhere on any of the ships that he said he was on. But when he told a story originally, people didn't have that availability to do that. So I just find that facts are easier to get nowadays, which lets you disprove stuff easier sometimes, or prove stuff.
So with that, and trying to find real facts towards this story, as we got about 90 seconds before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour, was it a difficult task? It's
a long journey, a really long journey. I mean, I found several things that other people just simply have not found, or again, they regurgitate the same facts that other books have done and don't put any effort into doing any real research. It's the same thing with ufology and all the classic cases, is so many people don't actually do research. They just look at other people's work and go off that. So it's been an interesting journey for sure.
Frustrating?
Disappointing sometimes, I'll say, more than frustrating. Sometimes frustrating, but frustrated just in the fact that you can't get a person to say the same story twice sometimes. And there's so many facts that are convoluted, and you just want something to be, the same or consistent or something. And, it takes you many, many, many sources to arrive at the generalization of what may have happened.
Why do you think, I'll save that question for after the break here, because I'm very curious as to why that is, Andrew, as we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Andrew Hochheimer, researcher, author, soon to be, our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. His website, de173.com. We are learning about the Philadelphia experiment tonight. What really happened to the USS Eldridge? Did it time travel? We'll find out coming up with more on Spaced Out Radio next.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you'd know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hello everyone. This is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Tonight, we are talking about the Philadelphia experiment. Researcher Andrew Hochheimer is with us. His website, DE, so Delta Echo, 173.com. Highly suggest you check it out. It's probably one of the most foremost gatherings of information on the Philadelphia experiment. Andrew, you really have to be commended for your website.
Yeah, I think it turned out really well. I mean, there's lots of websites you can go to online about the Philadelphia experiment, but again, a lot of them are just conveying the side they want to convey, whether they want to debunk it or whether they want to promote it. Mine kind of just lays it all out there and says, believe what you want to believe, but this is all the facts I can find.
Why is this such an important piece of World War II history?
It's just such a great story from back then because, like back in 1943, they were really looking for anything they could do to help them get an advantage in the war. So this story, captivated a lot of people that back in 1943, did they really try to make a ship optically or radar or, invisible somehow. And, a lot of people think, well, that sounds like so futuristic it could never happen. But you got to look at it this way. In 1943, the atomic bomb was also created. And, before then, you would think that would be totally impossible as well.
All right, so let's go back in history. Let's go back to 1943, even before the United States pretty much in 1941 gets pushed into World War II due to the bombing in Hawaii there at Pearl Harbor. And they declare war. And all of a sudden, there's now fighting on both front lines. The German U-boats are coming across the Atlantic, nailing merchant marine ships, Navy ships, left, right, and center, sinking them. And the U.S. is having a tough time, along with the Canadians, trying to get their troops and their gear and food and everything over to the European battlegrounds. Take it from there. What happened?
Well, I mean, from a historical standpoint, you kind of laid it out there a little bit in the fact that there was so much stuff being shipped and so much shipments going, basically getting destroyed in the process that they were looking for anything they could do to, minimize that. So that's the whole basis on this, where they said, we were experimenting with trying to make the ship radar invisible or optically invisible, and that's where this legend all started from back, way back when. Sorry, I'm not explaining very well. I'm so tired. Oh, my Lord. Anyways, the whole start of this story, to be honest, comes back to one person, actually, Carl Allen, or Carlos Allende, he used to call himself as well. He had been reading a book by Morris K. Jessup. Morris K. Jessup was early ufologist. He produced some of the first few books on ufology, which really put UFOs in a serious light, that looked into how could these ships possibly fly, like how would they be, is it like electrogravitics? He made serious works on UFOs, where at the time a lot of the stuff was, like more like Amazing Stories, for example. So Carl Allen had seen one of his books, The Case for the UFO, where Jessup went into detail about how they should look into Albert Einstein's unified field theory in regards to whether or not that could be applied to some new space drive or new way to travel. And Carl Allen decided to write Jessup a series of letters saying that in 1943 the government had looked into this with disastrous effects. And that kind of is where the whole legend started. But it gets really strange because along the way, Carl Allen or somebody sent the Office of Naval Research an envelope in 1955 with Happy Easter written on the outside of it, Some of the officers from ONR opened the envelope. Major Darrell Ritter and Captain Sidney Sherby of ONR. When they looked inside the envelope, all that was in it was Jessup's book, The Case for the UFO. But when they started flipping through the book, there was annotations on almost every page by what looked like three separate people that kind of looked like they had knowledge of, like, say, for example, like alien knowledge. They had scientific knowledge that was not considered what a normal person would have, for example. And the Office of Naval Research actually took that book, reprinted 200 or so copies, and distributed it. They later had Jessup come into the office. They invited him to the Office of Naval Research and gave him a copy of his own book and said, "Do you know anything about this?" And when he looked at the handwriting in the book and the annotations, he said, "Well, I think I know who might have done this." And he showed them the letters that Carl Allen had sent him. So it's kind of an interesting story that the Office of Naval Research actually took this and reprinted it, thinking it might be something of interest. And that really added to the whole legend. I mean, they actually took it to the Varro manufacturing company that was doing classified research or classified work for them at the time to get it reprinted. So it just made it all kind of pretty interesting.
Andrew Hochheimer is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking about the Philadelphia experiment. Andrew, going back to the Philadelphia shipyards in 1943 leading up to this event, what do we know about those shipyards?
Well, highly classified for sure. Can't really say a whole lot about it. Everything was classified because they're making the ships, obviously, and servicing them. They were also doing early stuff to do with degaussing, and that's kind of one interesting fact that you look at a lot of the material on this, and you wonder that when somebody said they're going to make our ship invisible, they could have just been referring to degaussing, the process of nullifying the ship's magnetic field so that it wouldn't attract magnetic mines.
Okay, so for people who do not understand what you mean by degaussing, give us an explanation.
What happens is when a large metal object moves consistently in the same direction back and forth, it slowly builds up its own magnetic field, and that magnetic field will stick out against the Earth's magnetic field, and they would make what they called these magnetic mines, these mines that would sense a difference in the magnetic field and then explode. So when the ship comes by the mine, it has a different magnetic field than the standard Earth's magnetic field, and it would go off. So they would use coils wrapped around the ship and apply power to nullify the magnetic field of the ship so that it wouldn't be detectable by the mines. And that was called degaussing.
Right. And how did Einstein play a role in this?
Well, basically, that was Carl Allen. He said that the whole basis of the Philadelphia experiment was on Einstein's unified field theory. So he was kind of named on this through Carl Allen. But interestingly enough, which, again, there's lots of little things that make this story somewhat interesting. In May of 1943, Albert Einstein actually signed a contract with the R&D division of the U.S. Navy. He was actually with the U.S. Navy till June 30th of 1944. All his time cards are readily available. So he actually worked for the Department of Navy around the same time as the Philadelphia experiment, for example. So it's little things like that are just interesting sometimes.
Was he part of the action crew that tried to create this phenomena of making a ship disappear?
Well, this is what Carl Allen has said. What actually happened may be a different story, but he was working with the Office of Naval Research in ways to, possibly protect ships from, incoming torpedoes, things like that.
That seems like such a major role for somebody who really wanted to push the limits of science.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
So with that, how big of a role do you think that Einstein actually played in this? Was it more just about helping out to design these patterns, or was it something where he was, since he was part of the U.S. Navy, that his unified field theory was the basis towards trying to really bring this to the forefront, and was the technology there at the time to do so?
Well, again, it's hard to say, because if for example something like this did occur, it would require a lot of scientific background, and people like Einstein, people like Tesla. Not saying Tesla had anything to do with it, but some of his theories would obviously be utilized on generators and power and magnetic fields and stuff. T. Thompson Brown, all these people back around that time all had worked for the Navy in some capacity. And if something like that was to occur, they would definitely need people like this in place. So it's just kind of interesting when you find out, it was actually working for the Navy at the time, around when Carl Allen said this happened.
Okay, so leading up to October 28th, 1943, was there any leak, any words, or any hustle and bustle around the Philadelphia shipyards?
Not specifically that I could point out, other than what, for example, Carl Allen would say. There's really not a lot of material to draw upon. There's it's all just hearsay.
So with that hearsay, as for every ounce of trickery, there always is a little bit of sense of truth. What were we able to take out of what Carl Jessup said?
Well, Carl Allen basically.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's good. He just relayed the story of what happened in October 1943 to Jessup. He also drops a lot of things in his letters to Jessup, which can't be really substantiated, but have left a lot of mystery, in the sense that he tells Jessup about barroom brawl, and produced a newspaper clipping that was not dated, no idea what paper it came out of, and to this day nobody can find it, but like a newspaper article that said strange circumstances surround a tavern brawl. Several city police officers responded to a call to aid members of the Navy Shore Patrol in breaking up a tavern brawl near the U.S. Navy dockyards. They got something of a surprise when they arrived at the scene to find a place empty of customers. According to a pair of very near nervous waitresses, the Shore Patrol had arrived first and cleared the place, but outright before any of the sailors involved allegedly did a disappearing act. They just sort of vanished into thin air, and the story goes on like that, but it's basically a story about how there was a fight in a bar, and some of the sailors were half visible, and then none could be found after the Shore Patrol showed up. So it's just kind of like a weird, quirky story that he said that happened at the time.
That is
doing a terrible job talking about this.
No, that's okay. That is an eerie story, though. That is completely an eerie story that you wouldn't fully expect to see happening. I mean, when you have men who are half disappeared, you would have to think that they were either ghosts or that they were part of this experiment and able to kind of manipulate the space-time.
Well, this is what Carl Allen said. He said basically that when they first powered the experiment, the ship, was enveloped in a green-like fog, and then the fog eventually disappeared, and all you could see was a slight outline of the hull in the water, but the ship was fully invisible. The story goes that they were only really looking to make radar invisibility, and the optical invisibility was kind of like a byproduct. When the ship reappeared, everything was fine. But then a few minutes later, the ship disappeared again. And then there's stories how it was seen like some 600 kilometers away in New Fork Naval Yard for a short period of time, and then reappeared back in Philadelphia Naval Yard. When the ship rematerialized, the men on it were visibly sick. And Carl goes on to say that some men would freeze or start turning invisible due to the after effects of the field. Again, this is all Carl Allen's story. And then it goes into the whole barroom brawl thing and stuff. But
so how do we know if we can believe Carl Allen's story? I mean, was he known as a hoaxer, a trickster, or somebody who would make something like this up?
He's a pretty interesting guy. Again, it's one of these things where the more you research you do, sometimes you kind of wish you didn't sometimes. But he told an interesting story. He also gave Jessup a lot of facts in his letters. Like, for example, he signed his one letter with his Z number, which is like every seaman gets a Z number. It's kind of like your social insurance number, but for the Navy. Jessup was able to look that up and find out that Carl Allen was on the ship he said he was, which was the SS Furuseth, where he claims he had witnessed the experiment from. So there's a lot of little things that Carl Allen said to give his story credence, as far as he was who he said he was where he said he was. When you compare that to, say, for example, Alfred Bielek, where you can't make one thing he said, line up. So that was kind of interesting. But on a whole, Carl Allen, he liked to annotate books. He sent books to everybody from Sagan to, you name it. Every book he read, he wrote in it and then just mailed it off to somebody. In this case, he actually mailed the book off to the Office of Naval Research.
So when you go back and you look at all of this information, as we got about 4.5 minutes before we go to break at the top of the hour, what happened on October 28th, 1943?
I think it's really hard to say what really happened. I almost feel sometimes that it's just a story of somebody saying they're going to make our ship invisible tomorrow, and it may have been only in regards to making it invisible to magnetic mines through the, at the time, secret process of degaussing. But nevertheless, the story is still around 75 years later.
So do you think that something anomalous happened?
I would really wonder if something anomalous happened, simply due to the amount of information available and the number of witnesses available and the quality of the witnesses. I think it's a very interesting story. I think there's some interesting aspects to the story, but to this day, there's no smoking gun, for example, that this absolutely occurred.
So how do we go about finding information regarding this?
It's like anything else. It's kind of like, you look at some of the old ufology cases. I mean, things slowly come out over the years. Little pieces come out here, little pieces come out there, and it's going to take somebody time to put all those little pieces together to arrive at maybe a slightly different conclusion than other people have. But a lot of people don't pay attention to all these little pieces. So it's just your work and perseverance.
Do you believe that there are people potentially in the know? Because, I mean, let's face it, there are a lot of stories out there that we want to believe. Whether they are true or not is irrelevant to a lot of people. We just want to believe.
Right.
All right. It's our urge to do that. And I think one of these topics, especially, is just the same case here. is that people want to believe that this happened, that there was some sort of time travel. I'm one of them. I'm not going to lie. I would love to, rub my tinfoil hat a little bit more on this one. I really would. But there's a reality to it, and that is we know that, people like Alan Preston basically fibbed their way to popularity in regards to this story. And that hurts. It hurts the credibility of the story. It hurts the research. It hurts everything that kind of goes along with it. So when you are studying this and you're looking into this to see whether it is real or not, how do you decipher the information on what could be truthful and what isn't?
Through factual research. I mean, I try to pull everything apart that people say and try to make sense of it all. Like, there's lots of things you can look into. Like, for example, on the ships, you can look at the deck logs, you can look at the logbooks, you can look at of all these different ships, and you start looking at stuff and you realize, okay, well, that ship was nowhere near this ship, and that ship was nowhere near this ship. However, these ships were close together at this given time, and then you look more into that time. It's just analysis and looking into stuff. But at some points, it's kind of hard to imagine, with all the different perspectives from different ships that were involved. Could you really get that many ships, that many logs, that many people to have a different story than what reality may be?
It's a lot of people, too.
Yeah, a lot of people. And then Carl Allen, it's interesting. It is, like I said, he gives out a lot of facts that you can check out, and he's not making some of the factual story up. But you really kind of wonder, would they really do a top secret experiment on a ship in view of other ships? That part's kind of troubling.
That is intriguing.
You think if you're gonna do something like that, you're going to do it in a part of the Philadelphia Naval Yard away from other ships.
But isn't it always the case where sometimes the best hiding place is in plain sight?
That could be too.
I don't know. Could be.
Yeah.
You would hope so. I mean, that would make sense. But I mean, I look at this story the same as I do on what's happening at Area 51. We all want aliens at Area 51. We all do. And if you say you don't, you're lying. But it almost seems like the same case. Lots of people, not enough evidence to go around. It's just a good story. We'll find out more about the Philadelphia experiment with Andrew Hochheimer, researcher, his website, de173.com, to check out the Philadelphia experiment, classified from A to Z, or Z if you're in the United States. We'll be back with Hour 2 next.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thieme. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. I appreciate each and everybody listening on in tonight. We welcome back everyone listening in on KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, and WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia. On the digital side, we're proud to broadcast on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Fasciate. Fasciate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Grab a great book from We Read the Night. Join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk has you all up to date on the SOR Newswire. We're talking about the Philadelphia experiment tonight, and researcher Andrew Hochheimer is our guest. He's got a great website called DE173.com. That's Delta Echo, DE173.com. Andrew, we're glad to have you here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
I want to go with the Philadelphia experiment right to the bottom of the hour here, and then we'll get into some other interesting topics that you have researched as well. I want to start off with a question from Joe here, and he is asking, when the USS Eldridge was sold to the Greek Navy in 1951, were there any reports from the Greek Navy about weird things happening with this ship?
Actually, there was some reports from, from the commander of the ship. It was over in the Greek Navy, but it's hard to substantiate everything exactly. It was said to have a higher desertion rate than other ships in the Greek Navy. There was some talk of seeing things that weren't there. There was some talk about lots of wires that simply went nowhere. Like, for example, there was a lot of wiring in the ship that looked like it should have went somewhere but didn't go somewhere. William Moore and Charles Berlitz go into a lot of detail about the ship in regards to the stats before it was transferred to the Greece and the stats after it was transferred to the Greece, and the fact that the ship weighed less when it was transferred over to Greece. Berlitz and Moore go into a lot of detail about that, trying to allude to the fact that maybe the ship weighed less because they removed some experimental equipment before it went over to Greece. In actuality, they just changed the armament on the ship. They removed some torpedo launchers and added some other stuff. But there's been a lot of interesting little stories while it was over in Greece. One thing that was actually fairly hilarious, I got a FedEx envelope in the mail the one day, and it was a letter from a Greece scrap company wanting to know if I wanted to buy the Eldridge before they scrapped it. I had any interest in purchasing the ship. So that was pretty hilarious, actually. I don't know where I'd quite park it, but...
Were the Greek Navy or the Greek military told about what potentially may have happened to this ship? Do we know?
Yeah, some of the people that were on the ship heard the legend of the Philadelphia experiment. The Berlitz and Moore book was actually published pretty much worldwide. It did fairly well. It was released in a number of languages. So some of the people on that ship obviously knew a little bit of the legend or a little bit of the story.
All right. Moving on here.
Now, not from that book, but just from other stuff at the time. I didn't want to make it sound like it come from that book because that's 1983 and that's 1956. But, there was some talk.
Andrew on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio is asking, do you think the story might have been a deliberate psyop to confuse what actually happened to the Eldridge? Deliberate confusion to cause cognitive dissonance is a feature. Have you found anything in your research that might suggest this?
That it was maybe a cover-up for something else going on at the time?
Yes.
Yeah, I looked at a few different things. One of which was interesting. I talked to a scientist that worked in the Philadelphia Naval Yard in regards to the nuclear project, and he said there was an accident that killed 4 people. And it was kind of an interesting story because you look at that and you wonder, well, maybe the Philadelphia experiment was kind of like a deflection from that going on at the time, possibly, but nothing really came of it. It was just an interesting little side story.
All right, another question from Andrew on Twitter. Is anyone in your family military or former military? Has the U.S. Navy ever checked you or your research out that you're aware of? If so, what happened?
Yeah, I'm unsure on that. However, they don't overlook a lot of stuff usually. So if anybody's on their radar for looking into stuff, it would be probably myself and a few others. But nothing I can say ever happened or was noticed. But if you're on record for requesting records about something, they certainly know who you are.
Oh, yes. Yes, they do. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that is quite okay.
There's been a lot of stuff coming out, too. Like, a lot of people say, well, the government wouldn't use their own men in an experiment that could possibly hurt them, for example. And, that's just not something that would happen. And meanwhile, in 1943, the government was running gas chamber tests where they put Navy sailors in basically in a chamber and subjected them to mustard gas and other things to study the effects. All 100% factual, all well documented, all now declassified. And this happened around the exact same time as the Philadelphia experiment. So it's just kind of interesting that they had no problem putting their own sailors in harm's way for research.
Are you surprised that not a single sailor from the Eldridge ever came out to say what truly happened?
Well, they had actually a reunion. It was all pretty funny, really. They had a reunion of the crew of the Eldridge, and they all just had a big laugh about it, saying that they were, some of them were on the ship from the day it was built to the time it was, transferred over to Greece, and they all pretty much say nothing happened. But you look at stories like that, and that could be very true. It could also be true that the crew that was on the ship during the experiment was not the crew that was on the ship when it was launched. Now, that's just more or less making an excuse to some degree, but it's another thing that people bring up all the time, is that maybe the crew that was on the ship is not the same as the test crew.
Why would they change crews for that? Why not have somebody that's familiar with the ship?
Well, with the experiment, you want people to just know about the experiment to keep it contained. And when they're done with the experiment, they're done with the ship, and they're just going to utilize it as the way it was supposed to be utilized, they'd have a proper crew on it at that point in time, which would be more filled out than just some kind of little experimental crew.
Interesting. Very interesting to learn that indeed. So would this crew, this alleged secondary crew, would they have been trained for this specific topic?
Well, that's what you would think, is that they would be not really the crew that would be running the ship as far as if it was in wartime use. They were more or less just a small group of people that was just there for the experiment.
I just find that very interesting. In regards to it. I guess, though, with the fact that if they would have changed crews for this specific experiment, that people would have had to been in the know.
Correct.
Like, hypothetically, if you are in, Andrew, this type of experimentation happening right in the Navy harbor of Philadelphia, where literally you're surrounded by thousands of people.
Yeah, it seems so unrealistic. Yeah, it absolutely sounds unrealistic.
How do you keep that secret?
Yeah, I have no answer for that because, again, that's one of the problems in this whole thing is the number of witnesses that would have been involved and the improbability of keeping it all quiet. And in reality, we only have one or two people that came forward that were actually where they say they were, when they say they were. So it just seems highly unlikely in some regards.
It totally does. And for me, that's kind of one of the reasons why I have troubles believing this story. I mean, I want to, but I can't believe it in regards to trying to do that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, I really want to believe this. I look at every angle just for the odd little interesting fact. But there's not a lot, there is some interesting stuff that happened, but there's not really a lot of any kind of smoking gun or documentation, really. I got lots of documentation that would allude to the fact that nothing happened, but not a lot of documentation that really makes you wonder. But
so,
stuff keeps surfacing. So
okay, so I'm going to throw something out there, Andrew, because in your words, and I realize you have objectivity regarding this topic, and you're trying to call it right down the middle, like a good Canadian kid would. All right, and I tend to hear in your voice that you don't believe that this actually happened. Yet here you are continually putting resources and effort into this. Why do that? Why? I don't want to use the word waste your time because I think that's an unfair judgment. But why put so much time and energy into this if you're not fully believing in the entire story?
Well, again, it's just interesting, and it's a legend that simply has been around for 75 years, and it's going to, quite frankly, outlast me. It's going to outlast all the researchers that are looking into this, which are very few nowadays. So it's just interesting the fact that the story prevails so much and holds such a captivated interest in audience. That I don't mind spending the time to look at all the facets of it.
Now, when you're doing that, do you go into your research knowing that the likelihood of you finding anything, lack of a better term, truthful about this that's going to be very difficult in order to find? Like, do you go in knowing
I don't go in negatively, but I do go in looking for just try to verify anything anybody says. And the odd time you find something interesting, most of the time you don't, but you won't find nothing if you don't look. And
so what's the smoking gun regarding this? What needs to be found for you?
Some actual documentation of like anything, like equipment transfers, personnel transfers, that like any kind of documentation, basically, or credible witness, or anything really, like in that regard.
Joey is asking, did you ever have the ability or opportunity to question homeowners on the opposite side of the river from the Navy Yard to see what they saw?
No, it's a good idea though, but I can't think of one book that even bothered with any of that kind of stuff, which is stuff that you would normally think of in ufology cases. But in this, there's really been no investigation like that, because a lot of times there's nothing on, for example, the other side. The naval yard faces out to the water, and everything in front of the Navy yard, you wouldn't see nothing. It's all buildings and structure and stuff. So it's not like you have houses on the other side of a bay, for example.
All right. With the fact that there is such limited information out there, and nobody has really come to fruition about this and said that it is real, or that it's just a conspiracy blown up, where do we go from here? Why is this 75 years later still a hot button topic of conspiracy theorists?
Well, I think just because some of the stuff that did happen that you can look at and then wonder why. Like, for example, Morris K. Jessup, a lot of information's come out about him, and there's a lot of real wonder there, because what happened to him basically is he got all wrapped up in the story of the Philadelphia experiment due to Carl Allen sending him letters about it. He did some of his own research into it, and along the process, he ended up committing suicide. But his suicide was just in such a strange way that it always adds that little interest that maybe he knew something that he shouldn't have known, or God knows what. But his whole suicide was a little bit strange. So that's one of those facts that keep the story alive. Like, why did he commit suicide, and how he committed suicide, and it just things that don't seem to add up sometimes. So as the story goes, to put it into small perspective, as the story goes, Jessup had called up his friend J. Manson Valentine, and said, I found out some stuff that I want to share with you, and I'll come over and we can look at it. So, for example, they made arrangements to have dinner. He never showed up. Instead, he drove his car to a Dade County, Florida park, hooked up a hose to his exhaust pipe, and committed suicide. The briefcase he had with him pretty much everywhere he went was not found. This whole suicide was weird in the sense that, like the hose that was used was actually affixed to the exhaust pipe, not simply stuffed into it. There was cloths and rags in the back windows that were to cause an airtight seal that were actually wet, but there was no sign of water, or no where they could have easily got water. What else? He was pronounced dead by a Dr. Harry Reid, who said he lived in the neighborhood and just happened by the scene. There's been nobody can actually locate this Dr. Harry Reid that pronounced him dead. There's been researchers that called every Harry Reid in Florida, basically, and they can't find this guy. His wife refused to identify the body, stating that her husband would never commit suicide. His body was actually identified by a friend, Leonie Soul, but nobody knows who this guy is, but he was supposed to be a friend. A lot of researchers say there was no published obituaries ever found about Jessup's death. In 2017, I actually found the only published record of his death. And interestingly enough, it's called Saucer Man Suicide. It's kind of interesting because he wrote the 4 books on UFOs. Everything about his death was strange. Like, there's laws that are in place about when you perform an autopsy and when you don't have to perform an autopsy. If your death is due to strange circumstances, if there's a number of different things that are in the books for when an autopsy needs to be performed. His death fulfills like 4 of the criteria, and yet no autopsy was ever performed. So his whole death was just strange, and that's one of the things that adds to the story.
Was there a lot of what went on that's strange? A lot of strange deaths around this?
You may have lost, not that I know of. No, not that I know of. I mean, there's other things where you hear about, like in ufology here, where like people start dropping like flies around cases sometimes. Around this case, we only really have very few people involved. We have like Carl Allen, we have Morris Jessup, and then a few of Jessup's friends, which are all, lived out their lives. But Jessup certainly did not.
Joey wants to know if there was any FOIA trail going on.
Freedom of Information Act. I believe there's been several documents requested. It's kind of funny because even trying to get records from the ship, you're constantly I feel like you're doing the carnival thing where, a kid goes to a carnival and one guy says, oh, can you ask this other guy for, a spanner or something or other? And then he knows it's a joke, so he sends you to another guy, then sends you to another guy, and then sends you to another guy. And this is the way a lot of these records work out. It's like, oh, well, that record has now been in this department. You have to put a new request in with that department. And it's like, it's almost like they just try to get you to give up sometimes.
So, do you think there are official documents on this?
I would assume that if something were to have happened, again, we're back to that word to have happened, there would be documentation somewhere. Whether it still exists today or not is another story. Whether it would ever be released again is another story. Or simply nothing happened and there's nothing that they have to give out.
So once again, if there is something that did happen during the Philadelphia experiment, is that a little bit too technical to this day or secretive to this day that they wouldn't want out there?
Well, again, it very well could be. You never know. You never know what this technology turned into. Like there's all sorts of current stealth technology they have out today that you don't get from point A to point B instantaneously. You need, that technology needs developmental time. And who's to really say that they weren't experimenting with something in the 1940s that was later perfected in our time now that is currently being utilized?
Very true. Very true. Andrew, I'm going to get you to hold on here because we are going to go to break at the bottom of the hour. And I think we should turn the ties here. You are good friends with Calvin Parker and the Pascagoula incident.
Yep.
There's other incidents and strange attractions around there that you have investigated. I think we should find out what else is going on in Andrew's world. Researcher Andrew Hochheimer is our guest tonight. We just wrapped up the Philadelphia experiment. We'll get into more details about UFOs, aliens, abductions. See where this goes on the mighty SOR.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really. Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckford, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Finish off your weekend and kick off your new week with me, Everett Thiemer, right here on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to bring you great guests, a little bit of snark, and plenty of information to think about. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of woo as well. We are going to hit everything in the paranormal and supernatural, including the odd psychic Sundays. So tune us in on Sunday, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have all of you with us. Reminder that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Go check it out while you're listening to the show. We are talking with researcher Andrew Hochheimer tonight. He is a researcher on the Philadelphia experiment. His website, DE173.com. It's Delta Echo 173.com. You can learn all about UFOs, the Philadelphia experiment, and we're going to get into Calvin Parker, who is a good friend of yours. Andrew, how did you two meet?
Actually, we just met through the internet, really. I can't remember how it all really started. Actually, just tired. Actually, how it did all start really was I really thought his story was engaging and interesting, and very believable. He tells a very honest account of what he believes happened to him, and his story is consistent. He's done many podcasts and interviews and what have you. And in my books, when I look at a lot of these people in ufology, that's one thing I look for. I look for consistency of story, and you don't find that often, and that's when you really know that somebody's telling the truth, because they're not trying to augment it, embellish it, or I remember this better now, or I remember this thing now. As soon as their story doesn't seem to be as on top of things as it used to be. Calvin tells a consistent story, and that really drew me to him. And then I noticed that he didn't even have a website or nothing. There was no real good information on his story. So I started, just like with the Philadelphia experiment, I started making a website for him, for his information and his story. And then I began to talk to him about that and said, like, hey, would you be interested in, help me with the website and stuff, and we'll make this your official website. And he thought that was a great idea. And we talked quite a bit ever since then. And that's what kind of led me to Philip Mantel with the whole idea of publishing my book, The Philadelphia Experiment from A to Z, was I never really found a publisher, and I didn't really feel like I could trust some people in publishing. And Calvin's story of how he went from, no book to book and met Philip and got his book published through Philip, made me really think I could trust Philip. And I ended up talking to Philip quite a bit in regards to Calvin Parker and the website and stuff like that. And then decided to share with Philip that I've got, 300 plus pages written already, and really haven't did nothing with it yet. And Philip thought we should maybe fix that. So that's how I kind of got involved with Philip, was through learning about him through Calvin Parker. And sorry, go ahead.
No, please finish up.
I was just going to say, so that's what really started our relationship, was me looking into his story, having faith in his story, and finding interest in it and wanting to learn more about it, and creating a website to contain some of that information.
For people who are not familiar with Calvin Parker's story, take some time here to fill them in as to what happened.
So basically, in 1973, Calvin Parker and Charlie Hickson, it was actually October 11th, 1973, Calvin Parker and Charlie Hickson went down fishing off the pier in Pascagoula. And while they were fishing, they tried a few different spots. And Charlie said, well, we'll try near this grain elevator stuff that they went fishing before there, or Charlie has, but not with Calvin. It was like a big no trespassing sign and stuff like that, but Charlie said, oh, it's no big deal, we can fish here. And so they're just fishing, and all of a sudden, behind them, Calvin notices some blue light, and immediately thinks, oh, that's the police, here to bust us, because it's no trespassing, we shouldn't be here. When they turned around, they noticed these creatures floating towards them. It then goes into your abduction story you hear from other big cases where, he's taken aboard the ship. He's examined. He feels like something was put up his nose, for example. And later he was released. And that's the really short version of the story. What makes the story interesting is that there are so many other witnesses that seen something that night or what have you, which is there's a lot of documentation. One thing that I really liked about the case was the very next day. Actually, it wasn't even the next day. It was within like under 24 hours. J. Allen Hynek and Hardaker showed up and actually tried to hypnotize Calvin Parker. I interviewed both Charlie and Calvin Parker about the story, and as much as Hynek was hired through Project Blue Book to more or less debunk a lot of stuff, he actually went on record to say he believed that something happened to Calvin and Charlie that day, which was really interesting at the time. So there's just a lot of really interesting facts in the case, and a lot of documentation and a lot of witnesses still coming forth to this day. So it's just a really great case. I mean, I put Calvin Parker up there with Travis Walton, Betty and Barney Hill as being one of the core abduction cases.
Why, with all the people who have come out in the last 20 years saying that they have been abducted, why is this one of the highlighted cases, considering that it's popular now and for the last few years, but it happened 46 years ago?
Well, that's the thing with ufology. I mean, all we do is we spend all our time in all these old cases. Roswell will be researched today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now. It's just strange. It's almost like all the good cases already happened. And then you look at that and you think sometimes, well, you look at our technology. We went from a Model T to a vehicle the size of a car driving around Mars in about 100 years. So if our technology increased that exponentially in the 100 years, maybe whatever the abduction phenomena is, their technology is also increased along the same rate, that now abductions are maybe occurring still, but they don't have all the after effects where, the humans remember everything clearly or at some point remember stuff, or maybe they're just getting better at, the whole abduction phenomenon, where they weren't so adept to it way back in the 1970s and such. I don't know. I just find it strange that all the good cases seem to be so long ago. I can't even think of anything recent that
it's the same as Bigfoot. It's the same as Bigfoot, that any of the newer footage, I mean, we just don't know. CGI and technology with computers is just so easy to manipulate these days, and it's getting harder and harder to tell what is real and what is fake. And when you have that, if you're in the research area, you have to think that everything is fake first.
Right.
Instead of innocent being proven guilty, it's got to be guilty until proven innocent. And there's just way too much garbage out there. Way too much.
Well, that's one of the things with the old cases. You have the photographs, you have all the documentation and all that stuff. And it's not like you're looking at a photograph saying, oh, this could be Photoshop. There was no Photoshop back then. That's a recent, development. So that's one thing that makes the old cases kind of interesting, because this happened at a time where the world was a different place. The technology wasn't there. The thoughts of what's possible was vastly different than what happens today. Like Calvin Parker, for example, he didn't really have even a TV growing up in his house. They had to go to a friend's house to watch TV. So it wasn't like he was exposed to aliens on a weekly basis like any child growing up now would be exposed to if they wanted to be. Through TV, through programs, science fiction, what have you. And I think it's also interesting that, his aliens are somewhat different than what others are reporting sometimes. Just because that's his experience and he wasn't really pre-exposed to anything.
So with that, being a very naive person, did he believe in UFOs and aliens back then?
I don't think he had much of a concept of it back then. That would be something that you'd best be... I'd get him on the show sometime. He tells like such a great story. But yeah, he doesn't... it's not something he really considered, let's put it that way. Before it happened to him.
So what's your thoughts on the whole UFO phenomena?
I think it's all interesting. I mean, I really wonder sometimes, like, whether it's a physical or a mental thing. Like, for example, I find it interesting that people have abduction cases in a high-rise building. Now, when you talk about abduction cases, you feel like that's the Whitney Steiber in the woods in a cabin, right? That I can see. I can see an alien. I can see something happening like that. But when you talk about somebody on the 13th floor of an apartment building having an abduction experience, I really wonder if it's physical or mental or, something like that. Because it doesn't make sense to me that an alien entity is physically removing somebody from an apartment building. And maybe so, but I'm just saying, like, what I think when I think about the phenomenon. As far as whether aliens have been here or not, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I want to believe they've been here. I want to believe somebody's visited us. When, who knows, but I want to believe something's happened. The distances and vastness of space is the one problem. And then what did visit us, was it alive, or was it robot? Like, we send robots to other planets, for example. It's all hard to say. But I do want, at some point in time, for there to be some actual contact where we get some answers, because I think it's something we really need to understand. But I'll tell you one thing. I mean, I always cringe when people see aliens and they look just like us. I can pretty much guarantee you, if we find alien life, there will be no doubt it'll be alien life. What makes you look the way you do has a hell of a lot to do with our planet, our gravitational field. So many factors go into making you look the way you look that it's not realistic to think that aliens would come from a vastly different place and look the same as us. It's just not sensible. So I always find that interesting. Like, if they look just like us, I'm sure there's something shady going on. Because I just don't expect them to, we'll say. If that makes sense.
When we go to researchers, go ahead, finish.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, like for example, when we go to Mars, we'll have specialty humans within one generation. It's not going to take 5, 10, 15 generations. It'll take one generation. We'll have specialty humans. They grew up in a different gravitational field with, for example, maybe longer fingers, for example. That's how fast it happens. It's not generations. So I just don't see aliens coming here and looking identical to us.
What do you expect that they are? Where do you think they're coming from?
Totally not sure. Are they interdimensional? Are they from another star system? I'm more apt to think that they're from another star system and have technology that allows them to traverse those spaces that we just simply don't have. But all the people that say that aliens are here to get something from our planet, I mean, that's just I can't even think of how ill-conceived that thought is. I mean, like, why would an alien race go by hundreds of thousands of planets that are far more mineral-rich than our depleted, crushed as a beer can planet Earth that we have now, for anything that we possibly have, when they can get it far easier elsewhere? Like, you hear all sorts of silly stories, like, oh, they're here for our water. Well, there's billion times more water around some of the planets in our system as frozen ice. I mean, there's no reason to come here for anything other than to meet us, for example. Well, we do have we do clearly have the best cow in the galaxy, because the cattle mutilations is definitely mysterious. And if it's not caviar for the universe, I don't know what is, but they keep taking eyes in certain parts of the body and stuff. But that's one of the things in the phenomena I think is very interesting, is the cattle mutilations. I don't know if you looked into that much.
It is very interesting in regards to it. I mean, cattle mutilations are one of those things where they are happening everywhere in North America. They don't happen often, but when they do, there seems to be real patterns around them and sightings around them too. I mean, that's one of the mysteries. Like, I've talked to Butch Witkowski about this a number of times.
Yeah,
on the show.
I talked to him too. You had him on the show. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, he comes on. He'll be on Monday again. He'll be on Monday. He comes on the final Monday of every month with us. And, these laser-like cuts that are so precise, there's no way that could be done with a knife.
The thing I like about cattle mutilations is the fact that that's physical evidence that we can go examine and look at and really wonder what the hell's going on, because, you can do tests where you put blood on the ground and you can determine how long does that take that blood to seep into the ground, and can you detect that blood like hours later, and there's just no explanation. It's like the animals have sometimes crushing injuries where they've been dropped from a height. And these are animals that are not like picking up a cat. They're like, upwards of 1,000 pounds, right? Or 400, 500, 600 pounds. Dropping that from a height is just not realistic. So it's just an interesting part of the phenomenon that gets overlooked sometimes.
Very true. Very true indeed. Andrew has a question on Twitter that he'd like to ask.
Sure.
At #SpacedOutRadio, and he was asking, there seems to be an increasing number of papers, studies, and opinions being laid out by mainstream figures, for instance, scientists and astronauts, who are saying that aliens are probably very real. Why is this happening, in your opinion?
Well, a lot of people come up with the whole, it's, preparing us for disclosure and stuff like that. I think it's just we're all getting more curious now. And the realm of possibility that these things are actually going on is much more within the grasp of understanding. Like back 50 years ago, a lot of things that we wouldn't consider possible. But now with all the scientific advancements and stuff, we realize that there is the ability to do things that may have been like magic before. That the possibility that alien life would exist just due to the fact that the vastness of the universe compared to what we understood the universe to be like 50, 60 years ago, it's just idiotic to think that there's nothing out there. It's just doesn't make sense. And more scientists are coming forward saying, we've detected all these planets with what we consider like potential for life. But one thing to always remember is that we're just looking for life as we understand it. That doesn't mean that there could be life vastly different than our understanding. We look for things that we perceive as being capable of life. Like, does it have water? Does it have this? Does it have that? However, life can take many forms and shapes and types, and it may be vastly alien to us. But
always alien. It's always alien, my friend.
Yeah, I think it's just more or less the scientific knowledge has increased so much that it almost makes some of these theories, very possible. And scientists are coming forward saying, like, look, this is really not out of the realm of possibility anymore.
And I think that's a good thing, Andrews. We only got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. I think that's a good thing that we're starting to see that, and that the attention is starting to come to this subject, because it's very due. It's very due for a long time, and it's really about time that this gets the attention it deserves. That being said, there are still a lot of people out there who are not wanting to jump on this bandwagon for one reason or another. Usually it's some sort of personal belief that they don't believe that this is true, and they have their own opinions, and no matter what the evidence says, they're going to believe their own opinion over anything else. So how do we combat that as we go forward with this subject, because it's only going to get bigger and more prevalent?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, you certainly can't change people's beliefs a lot of times, but the direction has been set. I mean, it's only going to get more and more investigated and accepted. Whether a certain individual accepts it or not is another story, but there's no doubt that we're getting closer and closer to understanding more and more. It's definitely an interesting future coming ahead, that's for sure.
Do you think we're at the point where we're able to accept this?
Oh, I think we're much more able to accept it now than we were even 15 years ago. Like a lot of things that transpired recently, I mean, and they're not even really recent stories. They were just made more prevalent, with CNN and stuff coming out with the whole tic-tac and stuff like that. These are old cases, but they're now really shoved into the awareness of the everybody, for example. And for them to come out and say, we just don't know what this is, that was pretty powerful. That was a pretty powerful statement to say, like, hey, we don't know what this is, but it's there, and we've tracked it, and we can examine it. We have no clue. Now, 10 years ago, they never would have said that. So it's just interesting.
That's what has a lot of people, is we only got about 45 seconds here before we go to break. That's what has a lot of people concerned, though. Why now? What's the reasoning for talking about this now?
Well, that's why a lot of people say disclosure is coming, but I hear that every year. So,
don't we all? We can thank Steve Bassett for that.
There you go.
One day it's coming. As much as I love Steve, one day it's coming. We're going to get there. I promise. Andrew, we only have you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. I mean, we're 2 hours through already, and this is going on by really, really quick. I'm going to get you to hold on here as we are going to go to break at the top of the hour, and we're going to continue on with UFO Weird Strange Stories with researcher Andrew Hochheimer. Once again, I want you to check out his website, if you don't mind, because it's a good one. DE173.com. It's Delta Echo 173.com. You can learn all about the Philadelphia experiment, the Pascagoula UFOs, other mysteries like the Ourang Medan death ship. We're going to talk that next on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thieme. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you for being with us. We say hello to everyone listening in on KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, down in Dangerfield, Texas, KDNF AM 1560. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, you could check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Fasachet. Fasachet is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault, grab a great book from We Read the Night, join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk has you all up to date on the SOR Newswire. For the final time tonight, we introduce Andrew Hochheimer. He's a researcher out of the province of Ontario, Canada, looking into the Philadelphia experiment, UFOs, and we're going to change topics here for a second. We're going to go to the Ourang Medan. I've probably butchered that name. His website, de173.com. That's Delta Echo 173.com. Andrew, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, the SS Ourang Medan, or however you want to say it exactly. Pretty interesting topic. They call this the death ship. What I find interesting about it is the fact that I get so much traffic every day to this. It is probably twice the traffic I get for the Philadelphia experiment or anything else on my site. About 300 to 400 people a day read my single page about the SS Ourang Medan. That being said, if you don't know the story yet, you'll find it under Other Mysteries on the main menu of my site. Basically, it's a story. In 1947, the Dutch freighter, the SS Ourang Medan, sent a cryptic SOS in Morse code. The message, when deciphered, said all officers, including the captain, are dead, lying on the chart room and bridge. Possibly the whole crew is dead. This communication was followed by a burst of incomprehensible Morse code, then the final grim message, I die. They figured out where the ship was from triangulation of the Morse code, and the Silver Star was the closest ship in proximity. It made the 50-mile journey to the SS Ourang Medan, where it tried to contact people on the ship, and there was no answer. They boarded the ship and noticed several strange things. A lot of the bodies were contorted in looking up like they'd seen something or what have you, but they were all kind of frozen. The local temperature on the ship was much colder than the temperature on the ship was much colder than it was the air around the ship. All sorts of strange stuff related. This first came out in a book by Vincent Gaddis called Invisible Horizons back in the 60s. It's a pretty interesting story. Lots of facts and lots of really interesting stuff, but unfortunately, the more you look into it, the more it falls apart. And it's just really, really interesting how many people are so interested in this when I just can't find a single thing, not a single thing that makes it a factual event, we'll say. For example, I looked at all the newspaper articles, all the places it was mentioned. I found it in the United States Coast Guard Proceedings, the Merchant Marine Council, where they talk about the ship. Sorry, I should have finished the story. Basically, when they boarded the ship, they found everybody was dead. They were going to tow the ship back to basically claim, salvage rights to the ship. They hooked the ship up to their ship, started to tow it, and the ship exploded and sunk, never to be seen again. So anyways, I did a lot of research on the date this happened, and there's various sources you can find of the dates, like newspaper articles. It was in the Coast Guard logs and stuff. And basically, it got really, really interesting because everybody agrees it's happened sometime in 1947. But one thing I really love, and it's something you should look at if you're into ufology or anything, is the newspaper archives are amazing. Newspapers.com, access to millions of newspapers, all searchable. You can type in anything you want and pull every article. Like, for example, I typed in Calvin Parker, and there's like 1,700 plus newspaper articles that I can pull and read. So with the Ourang Medan, I started with the newspaper archives, and I was on the U.S. newspaper archives, and I found plenty of stories that all list, the date of being 1947, 1948. And I was able to narrow it down quite well. And then I went into the British newspaper archives, and something really weird came up. And that's stories in the Daily Mirror from Friday, November 22nd, 1940. On page 11, crew dies in SOS mystery. And the same basic account that was given in 1947. And then another newspaper in England tells the whole story, and again in November 1940, a story of a weird sea tragedy that goes over what happened to the Ourang Medan and the fact that it sunk, never to be seen again. It's a little hard to believe a ship can sink twice, but so it's a really interesting story. There's lots of mystery and stuff around it, and I can see why people are attracted to it, but like most ghost stories or ghost ship stories, they don't really hold up well to history.
You mentioned that bodies were contorted where they were found. What is thought to have caused that?
Well, it's actually pretty interesting because going back to the Fylth experiment, you remember we talked about Morris K. Jessup a bit. He actually put forth the idea that maybe the ship was exposed to some kind of UFO phenomenon, where the people were all like dead, looking up at whatever basically killed them, and that could it possibly be a UFO? So it's strange. So it's like that's how I get wrapped into these. They mix into other things, and it's a really interesting story. But unfortunately, I can't find a single thing that makes it true.
What do you think happened?
I think what happened was somebody made a nice story up in 1940, tried to get it in several newspapers, which they achieved that, but didn't really find the fame or notoriety they were looking for, and then thought they'd retry the whole story in 1947. As silly as that sounds, unfortunately, that's what it looks like.
So where did the ship sink?
That's the problem. It's reported sinking in multiple places, which again doesn't usually happen. So basically, where is it here? It was in the 1940s. It sunk around the Solomon Islands, and then in 1948 it was reported near the Marshall Islands, 400 nautical miles apart. The SOS messages have changed over time. None of the facts are ever the same in any two stories, which makes it really hard. And there's a whole linking to the Japanese Unit 731 that maybe the ship was transporting toxic gases, and that something got out, and that's what killed the whole crew. I mean, a lot of these things sound really plausible, but there's just no factual evidence whatsoever. But and yet, what makes this story so interesting is the volume of people that come each day to read about it. It's something that's, you know, kind of like the Philadelphia experiment. There's so much interest in it, and you wonder why sometimes. Like this, like with the Philadelphia experiment, at least I have several pieces of interesting things. With this story, there just simply is none. And yet, it generates the most traffic to my website.
Did the ship really exist?
I cannot find a single thing that says it existed. They can't even agree on what ship went to investigate it. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting story, but just like a lot of these stories, they fall apart when you really start digging into them.
So the fact that there is so many people inquisitive about this mystery,
that's what I find interesting.
Once again, is this just a nautical mystery that people want to believe because we believe that the oceans have potentially magical powers and strange creatures that live in the depths that could take down ships or cause men to go mad out there?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The big thing that drives this story is the whole SOS message, how cryptic it was, and all these stories about how the men looked when they went to see if there's any survivors, and you know, all this conspiracy theory that maybe the ship was transporting toxic gases from the Japanese Unit 731, which may not mean much to people, but basically that unit, the Nazi Germany that was doing like such horrible experiments on people, looked at Unit 731 and said, "Man, that's grisly." Like, that's how bad these people were. It was just like beyond anything you could imagine. So it's just an interesting story, but I just find it interesting that so many people want to come read about it.
Do you feel that this ship came from somewhere? And what I mean by that is, obviously, you know, there's an alleged photograph of it. There is, you know, all of these different stories where it sank, names of crew members, so on and so forth. I mean, that's really what you need to start any type of investigation. Yet when you're saying that you're not even sure if it existed, that's one hell of a tall tale of the seas.
Exactly, and that's the problem with a lot of these ghost ship stories. You know, the reality situation is a lot of times it never existed at all. Yeah, I go through all the possibilities. You know, like there's from scientific to silly. You know, like technically a ship can be wiped out by methane greenhouse gases forming on the bottom of the ocean floor. They bubble up. They can actually envelop a ship, and it changes the density of the water, causing the ship to sink. The gas can cause the crew to be suffocated. We can't say the right word, but too tired. You know, I go through scientific things like that, all the way down to aliens, UFOs, ghost paranormal activity, and a great story of maybe they were ghost pirates, as silly as it sounds. But
who picked up the alleged SOS?
Again, it's related. It's told like there's no station that's, for example, that said that they received it. It was more or less somebody saying that they received it. So it's not like an official source said this is the message we received. It was a story of a message received. So I just look at this as being a good example of how absolutely captivating a story can be with absolutely zero evidence.
Maybe I missed this, but where allegedly did this ship come from?
Man, I forget the exact port it left from, and where exactly it was going, but it's all in the write-up. Sorry. Wasn't really thinking about that.
Oh, that's all right.
I always get wrapped up in the details, like the date, the ships, the logs, you know.
So
but it's something to look at.
Yeah, I mean, this happens right in that 1947 era, right after World War II. A lot of strange things starting to happen or about to happen around that time. What is it about that 1943 through 1954 decade that just a lot of weird stuff happened?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, you know. There is a lot of stories back then, but I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that so much could not really be checked into. That's where these stories come from. They come from a lot from fabrication, because the people fabricating the story know there's virtually no way to check into this stuff. Where now we have tools available to us and documents released where we can go back and we can further examine these legends of the sea and just see if they make sense.
Greco on Twitter has a question for you.
Sure.
He is saying, do you, Andrew, have any information on the alleged types of poisonous gas that affects the nervous system? This is an important piece of information to look into.
Yeah. What was the gas called exactly on this? It was a nerve agent, actually. Nitroglycerin and potassium cyanide potentially was being carried in the ship, which, if not stored properly, could mix or could be contaminated with seawater, causing these deadly chemicals to release toxic gases, which could have asphyxiated, can't say that word right now, the crew. And the chemicals could also be responsible for the possible fire and subsequent explosion of the ship. There's interesting things that make it sound really plausible, but there's just no factual evidence. And then the biggest problem with the entire story is that it sunk twice, which doesn't usually happen.
Where did it allegedly sink twice?
Well, again, we're back to the whole Marshall Islands and the Solomon Islands, because it sunk where it was found. Basically, the story is they go out, they see everybody's dead on the ship, they go to tow the ship back, the ship explodes and sinks.
Interesting.
Yeah, but again, I look at this story as being highly interesting, that so many people have invested so much time and interest in it, and yet it simply just didn't happen.
Now, the Merchant Marine Council took a look into this. What was their observations of this?
Well, they basically published the account that they heard, which the ship sunk in 1947. But then again, you get the exact same story with the exact same ship name with similar SOS calls from 1940. It just doesn't make sense.
Why do you believe it might be a ghost ship?
Well, it's just what they call it. It's one of the ghost ship legends. I don't believe it's a ghost ship. I'm just saying that it's in those ghost ship legends, like the SS Ourang Medan and several other ships.
We've got about 4 minutes left with you tonight, Andrew.
All right.
And let's continue on here with this. If people want to check out your website and your research, it's de173.com is the website. That's Delta Echo 173.com. So if this ship did happen to sink, and it happened to exist, and there's a crew that is lost out there or was allegedly found in weird, contorted ways, what happened to the bodies? What happened to, how did they find the bodies contorted if the ship had sank? Were they floating in the water?
No. They boarded the ship. They found everybody dead. They then decided they would tow the ship back to port because it's a valuable asset, for salvage. So they started to tow the ship back to port, and that's when it exploded and sunk. So it's kind of like a neatly wrapped up story. Do you know what I mean? Like, it sunk in water too deep to recover it, and all this kind of nonsense. And there's no two newspapers that have the same story. Some say the explosion happened here, some say the explosion happened there on the ship, for example. The SOS message is given 4 different years the SOS message was received. 1939, 1940, 1947, 1948. Et cetera, et cetera. In one version of the story, there's no survivors. Another version of the story, there's one survivor. So again, I just find this kind of interesting because it's just so, people are so interested in it, and yet there's not a scratch of proof it ever existed. It's just a great tale of the sea.
That just blows me away. It's like you said, tale of the sea. You know, little off topic, Hadarok in the Space Travelers is asking, are there any things that you have looked into that have truly frightened you?
Hard to say. I mean, hard to say. There's things that you can look at and think about, and but hard to come up with something. I mean, we're almost back to the Whitley Strieber book where he had the alien on the cover that made everybody lose their mind. That was frightening at the time. But yeah, it'd be hard to come up with something specifically to tell you.
We've only got about 90 seconds left with you tonight. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight, going over the Philadelphia experiment, the Calvin Parker story, and now the ghost ships of Ourang Medan. I mean, it's been an interesting evening for sure. Absolutely for sure. Do me a favor. Take the next 45, 50 seconds. Let everybody know about your research, what's on your website, where they can find it.
Sure. My website's www.de173.com. You'll find all sorts of stuff and articles and whatnot on the Philadelphia experiment in 1943. I also have a large section on Montauk. I've did a lot of research into Montauk. We didn't even talk about that tonight. If you want crazy, you visit the whole Montauk Project stuff, where they took billion-dollar technology and used it to make beer runs. It's an amazing story. I have no faith in it. You have all the Calvin Parker stuff there, which includes wonderful documentation, like the full Phil class file on Calvin Parker, where he was really going after Calvin Parker, as he did with a few years later with Travis Walton. Under mysteries, we got the SS Ourang Medan, we just talked about, the Nazi bell, the Die Glock, which a lot of people think has to do with the Kecksburg incident. And one thing to point out really quickly is quality research links. I update this periodically. It's where you can find a lot of research links where you can do your own research. Some of the stuff I talk about on here, like the newspaper archives, are indispensable. They're all on here. So, stay informed.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Really appreciate it. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we got the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thielen. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. Want to remind all of you that if you have missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault, grab a great book from We Read the Night, join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk has you all up to date on the SOR Newswire. Speaking of the news, the news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, the WTF. And sometimes a good Sasquatch story hits the news, which we have out of Ferry County, Washington State. Yeah, the Washington State Department of Transportation is trying to convince you that you should believe in Sasquatch. Several tweets have showed what the state DOT says is a Bigfoot on or near mountain passes in Washington. WSDOT first tweeted photos of what it said might be a Sasquatch at Sherman Pass on Wednesday. The sighting was caught by a traffic camera pointed towards State Route 20 on Sherman Pass. I've driven this. Whoa, hold on. I drove this highway just a couple of years ago, going down to Cooper's Paracon. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, this is really cool now that I know where this is. Yeah, anyways, the sighting was caught on traffic camera with a camera pointed on State Route 20 on Sherman Pass on Wednesday and shows what appears to be a Sasquatch-like figure near a tree. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious, the person running the account said. People played along, replying to the tweet to ask for more photos and if a search party could be formed to go look for the figure spotted by the cameras. The Department of Transportation East tweeted on Thursday that crews were headed over to Sherman Pass again with a chance to see Bigfoot. They made several passes and even stopped at the top of the summit near the camera to see if they could find Sasquatch, but unfortunately, they had no luck. It was a different story near Snoqualmie Pass, though. The person running that Twitter account said it appears Bigfoot is making the round across the mountain passes, with another sighting Thursday on the I-90 wildlife crossing nearby. Oh, this is getting good. This is getting good. Washington State, that I-20, that is completely Sasquatch area. One of the most beautiful drives I have ever done in my life. Honestly, that I-20 takes you through some real rugged mountains, but there are some great little communities in there. And seeing Sasquatch there, not very surprising. So if you're ever traveling in Washington State, you will thank me if you drive the I-20. Drive it slow, though. There's a lot of winding curves through the mountains. But what a great drive. Take your time with it. Now, on the east coast of Canada, Newfoundland residents have been blanketed with snow for nearly a month, and with a state of emergency extended through Saturday morning, it isn't over yet. We don't feel that the streets are at the safety level that we need to be in order to take off the state of emergency right now, St. John's Mayor Danny Breen said. It started to snow in St. John's, the capital city of Newfoundland and Labrador, on Christmas Eve. It hasn't stopped since. Deputy City Manager of Public Works Leanne Windsor said the constant pileup has made clearing the snow a challenge. The last state of emergency was 35 years ago. Now, this is the reason why Amber Beckerud from Cryptid Tales on our YouTube channel hasn't been able to do another Cryptid Tales for a while, because she's all snowed in and they got to try and save their heat, their energy, absolutely everything in order to survive this. This is ugly. Yeah, this is very challenging for businesses and people. This is very challenging for the people who are working, the mayor said. Restrictions on travel and businesses opening have been relaxed for some despite the extension. Medical, health, and dental practitioners, as well as veterinarians, will be allowed to open as of 8 a.m. on Friday morning. Oh, geez, that's in about 3 hours from now, because they're 4.5 hours ahead. Anyways, Those who live in St. John's but work in other municipalities are not allowed to travel to work. The mayor urged people to be careful of the heavy equipment moving around on the roads and to keep children especially safe. Yeah, there's one picture here of this guy digging out. He's got a little spade shovel, and the snow is up to his shoulders. That is ridiculous. All right. So just since last Friday, 30 inches of snow have fallen, according to Environment Canada. And that broke a record from 1999. Footage showing people digging themselves out of the snow. Oh, this is ridiculous. Yes. They're now waiting for the Canadian Armed Forces to get their 3 vehicles from Alberta all the way over there in order to dig them out. Switzerland has minted a gold coin so small you need to look very closely to see Albert Einstein sticking out his tongue at you. State-owned Swiss Mint said Thursday that the 2.96 millimeter, or for our American friends, 0.12 inches gold coin is the smallest in the world. It weighs just 1/500th of an ounce and has a nominal value of 1/4 Swiss francs, or about 26 cents. Swiss Mint says the coin, of which just 999 have been made, will be sold for 199 francs with a special magnifying glass so owners can see the famous physicist on its face. That's kind of cute. Researchers said a glass bottle found during an archaeological dig on a Virginia highway median is believed to be a Civil War area witch bottle designed to ward off evil spirits. The William and Mary Center for Archaeological Research said the bottle was discovered during a 2016 archaeological dig for Civil War artifacts prior to widening of the project of Interstate 64. Joe Jones, director of the William and Mary Center for Archaeological Research, says the glass bottle was initially thought to be nothing more than a place to store loose nails. The Union troops were likely tasked with holding and repairing the fortification whenever they had a reason to expect Confederate assaults, Jones said. They were building up a fortification, so we just assumed they needed a place to keep their nails and used a bottle. He said further research was carried out on the finds from the dig, and now experts believe the object was a witch bottle used by Union soldiers to ward off evil spirits during the war. The university said people who feared they were under the influence of dark magic would bury a nail-filled bottle underneath the hearth with the intention the heat from the hearth energized the nails to break a magic spell. The jug is now All right, we should have sound now. We should have it coming through now, I do believe. Just give me a second here. This one system that we have, it seems to cut out. There it is. We got sound now. All right, cool. So I have a program here that we're going to be changing out very, very soon that just likes to have its little tantrum cutout section. So I think that's what we had here. Anyways, we're going to continue on with the news here. So yes, the idea behind this last story is Mehdi Rajaban is running from the law in Iran because he is creating music. Apparently making music in Iran is illegal, and he's doing it out of protest. So apparently there's a huge underground music scene in Iran. Started after the 1979 revolution by Ayatollah Khomeini banned the broadcast of music on TV or radio, arguing that it made the human brain inactive and frivolous. Only revolutionary music and religious songs were considered permissible, and almost all Iran's pop singers left for the United States. All right. There we go. Let's move on here. Once again, I apologize for that arrow. I really do. Totally do. I hate when that happens. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Jeff, for letting me know, and everybody in the chat rooms. All right. Continuing on with the news. This has to be one of the coolest ideas out there right now. It really does. Drink beer, adopt a pet. A Florida brewery, something good coming out of Florida. A Florida brewery is finding homes for local shelter dogs by putting photos of adoptable canines on their cans of beer. Motorworks Brewing teamed up with Manatee County Animal Services to put photos of dogs from the shelter on cans of Cruiser Golden Lager. The brewery said proceeds from sales of lager 4-packs are being donated to Manatee County Animal Services to help build a new shelter. MCAS officials say they are currently at nearly twice the capacity of their current shelter. It has been a constant problem being the county's only open admission shelter. We take in nearly 15 to 20 animals every day, says Hans Wogelfart. Wogelfart, the shelter's outreach and event specialist. Wogelfart says Wogelfart says 2 of the dogs featured on the cans have already been adopted, but 2 others are still waiting for homes, along with dozens more dogs. But you know what? The more we can get creative with rescuing animals, the better. And I think this is a fantastic idea. Drink beer, adopt a dog. What could go wrong? An animal rescue shelter has posted a brutally honest ad for its sullen cat, Perdita, saying that they thought she was sick, but apparently she's just a jerk. Mitchell County Animal Rescue in North Carolina shared an image of the black and white cat on Facebook, labeling her as the world's worst cat. In the adoption ad, it describes Perdita as not being for the faint of heart. Her likes apparently include staring into your soul until you feel as if you may never be cheerful again, and the song Cat Scratch Fever. Shelter staff went on to compare her to a feline character made popular by Stephen King's novel Pet Sematary, saying that jump scares are her specialty, lurking in dark corners, being queen of her domicile, and fooling shelter staff into thinking she's sick are also among the very few things she likes. It added about the latter, the vet agrees. She's just a jerk. In the ad, Perdita is seen looking unimpressed about being posed upon in front of a Christmas tree. It also states that her dislikes are the color pink, kittens, dogs, children, the Dixie Chicks, Disney movies, Christmas, and last but not least, she hates hugs. Oh, you got to adopt this cat. Social media users left more than 400 comments and shared the post more than 900 times. One person said, I'm going to pick up my kitty out of a dog out, or it said something rude. I can't really say. And adopt this cat. At least she will look and act mean like a watchdog is supposed to. Another said, Perdita is my entire mood of this year. Official mascot of 2020. The Facebook page also shows at least 13 people made donations for Perdita, raising $350. However, the shelter says that so far no one has taken up the offer to give her a new home, despite free adoption being written at the bottom of the caption. Mitchell County Animal Rescue has asked animal lovers to fill out an application online at mitchellcountyanimalrescue.org if interested, but her new owner shouldn't expect to get too close to the black and white fur ball when she does arrive at her new home. The online post adds the disclaimer, she's single and ready to be socially awkward with a socially awkward human who understands personal space. Sounds like my ex-wife. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air. Why? Because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What's your thoughts on the Philadelphia experiment? Start off with Mr. Skeptic. He puts a Saturday Night Live gif up there that shows a person laughing and one smirking, holding in their laugh. I'm going to assume that he does not believe in the Philadelphia experiment. 24 Weird on Twitter. I go full-blown time travel, LSD, tripping, Preston B. Nichols, and Peter Moon on this whole thing. Well, that's kind. He wants to believe, I guess. He wants to believe. Moving on here. Chris. Philadelphia experiment. I thought you were talking about the Flyers. They're playing good this year. Truth. They're still going to need a goaltender. Carter Hart needs to come back from injury. Quick. Philip Mantle. Coming soon. The new book from Andrew Hochheimer. Philadelphia experiment from A to Z. Z if you're in the United States. I'll translate that Z for you. Z. All right. Tim. Very plausible, especially if Tesla technology is involved. Gabe. I definitely believe it happened, maybe even on another Earth. Maybe he bled over to this Earth. Might be why nobody remembers him being on that ship. Lee. I say, stick with the real cheese. None of this artificial woo crap. What's next? Plant-based steak? Ugh. Don't say that. Don't say that. We don't need the vegans stealing another name for meat product. Jim. It's one hell of a story, that's for sure. Kelly. Had a captain in special operations that said he had full knowledge that it was true. I never believed him because he was an ass, but I personally believe parts of the story. Sparkles. I believe that they were not knowledgeable enough to do this when they embarked on this experiment. Therefore, it went awry. I do believe it did take place, though. Don. Hey, not long finished the book. Very interesting. I think there might be some truth to it. Dave. It would have worked if they remembered the cream cheese. Wow. Drop in a Philadelphia cream cheese comment. Now the other one makes sense to me. I didn't even pick up that first one. I got the second. That's good stuff. Good stuff. I love Philadelphia cream cheese. However, their potato chip dip, terrible. Stick with the others. Philadelphia cream cheese, potato chip dip, terrible. Don't get it. Especially the garlic cheese one. Terrible. Have some in the fridge upstairs. Threw it out. Robert gets the final word. Some sort of experiment was being conducted then and there. I'm not sure if I buy it. I want to believe. I really do. But I don't think I do. I really don't think I do. Zed. Thank you, Sandra, in the chat room. Appreciate that. It is Zed. Anywho, no, I did not get abducted. It was that stupid program that we have to use. We're going to be bouncing that very soon. Going to be doing some audio changeovers here in the studio. Make it a lot more smoother than what it is. So we're looking forward to it. All right. Hey, I also want to remind all of you, if you don't mind, because we got a few seconds here, that I will be speaking at the UFOCon 2020 in San Francisco, California, February 20th through 23rd. I'm speaking Thursday night. I believe at 5 o'clock, they're kicking off the event with old Davey there. And then I got the rest of the week to party. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Talking UFOs, hanging out with all of you. I would love for as many Spaced Out Radio listeners to get down to San Francisco. I want to see you there. I want to meet you there. My deal that I said on our YouTube channel is true. If you go down there and you say, hey, Dave, I saw this on your YouTube video or on the show. You heard you say it on the show. I'll give you a free poster of We Own the Night. Big thanks to everybody taking part in the Thought of the Dave today. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Hey, I should mention the UFO website, UFOcon2020.com, to go get your tickets there. Thanks, Gail, for the news, and thank you, Andrew Hochheimer, talking the Philadelphia experiment and so much more tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Everyone in our chat rooms on LGAB, Spreaker, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the SOR Space Travelers Club on our website, and of course, the Snarkers and Snarkettes at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your show tonight. We're going to wrap up the week tomorrow together, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a great night, everybody. Tomorrow night, Matt Swain, Haunted Rock and Roll. It's going to be a good one. Stay tuned. Talk to you tomorrow. Good night.